Shut up and sit down.
I have come here to defeat you. Oh, well, there's strikes 2 and 3 right there.
But I remember what it was like astride my yellow bike.
Mic check. Check, check, check. How now, brown cow? Here we go. You are listening to the Dialed Podcast with Matt Legrand,
Sir Ian Gibson.
Lance Hepler, and Jake Von Turing. Tip of the day. You cannot get to the top by sitting on your bottom. Now, go enjoy the podcast. Tell a friend to listen to our show. And give me, not those other chumps, a solid review.
First freedom, second life. All the places I could ride.
Did I leave the stove on?
Hi, and welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm Jake Von Turing. I'm here with Lance freaking Hepler.
Lance friggin' Hepler, punchy and kind of weird.
For your freaking pleasure.
For your freaking pleasure.
Always
I am
nice.
feeling a little strange and a little not right, and it's all good. I'm a little broken, and I drove 22 of the last 27 hours.
Are you going to sleep after this?
I need to sleep some today, and then I have to pack the car to go to the first freaking Cyclocross race.
Oh,
It's just
yeah.
getting ready.
It has to be 3 hours away, right?
It is 3 hours away, so I won't leave till tomorrow.
Not like the good old days when it was at David Douglas and it was what, like a 4-minute drive from your house?
Yes, I know.
More
So crazy.
more on Cyclocross later in the podcast, perhaps?
I do have gifts. A gift for
gosh.
Ian, a
that.
Steamboat Gravel hat.
Beautiful.
So, they only give these hats out as you cross the finish line when you finish your race.
Yeah, and I had one.
Ian had one and lost it.
Lost it.
He left it on an airplane, and so I went back and pretended I did not
That
have
is
Well
awesome.
played.
anything. So,
Thank you,
Jake,
sir.
Brandy got those for you.
Oh, I thought you were just going to give me a little
I
brown
hope you
paper
didn't
bag.
forget me. If you did forget me, that's okay.
You have two choices. Yeah, Jake got
Those
some
are my
FU.
jam.
Oh, that's perfect.
Hey, Lance.
Yes.
So
They're-
let me just describe Jake's gift. He has a pair of cycling socks with the hands all over it with the middle finger sticking straight up.
Yeah.
Very nice. Those are quality.
Number one. I'm number one.
So for you,
one.
Matt, I got some sun barrier because you're the redhead in the group.
Do you know that how bad I need this right now?
There you go.
So listen, I got absolutely fried because I'm at cross country practice and it's been like just beating down on my skin and I'm like, oh, does anyone have sunscreen? Does anyone have sunsceen?
There you go.
Lance has
Now you got
sunscreen.
some. But this is the real gift. This is
Ooh,
a.
I love it when you.
I bring you a rock.
Bring me rocks.
That is a piece of petrified wood.
Oh, yeah.
You can see the limb cast on it. You can see that it used to be a limb because there's like bark on the outside. That's from the San Rafael Swell area of central
You know,
Utah.
I put these on my
You're
desk next to where I'm like programming stuff. I like having these.
And now you look at those and think of me every time, right?
Hey, Ian.
I feel good.
You know what?
What?
Lance just gave Matt wood.
Rock Talk. This has been another episode of Rock Talk.
We're off
Spreading
to
the
a good
wood.
start here.
Spreading the wood.
This episode of Rock Talk got a little
Weird.
PG-13. A little PG-13, but that's okay.
Oh, no.
All right, sorry.
Good times. Shoot, I wasn't queued up for that, Matt. You got to give me like the heads up next time so I can hit the little button over there. So
Some sort of sexual reference button. It's the red button, probably.
well, this is from Brandy?
Yeah, well, she found the socks.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
thank you, Brandy and
Yeah.
Lance. Those are magical. You'll have to wear yours, and I'll have to wear mine at the next ride. We'll have to coordinate
All
this.
right,
and
we'll
just
coordinate. We
tell the
both
world.
have middle finger FU socks.
I got some for Lance in Vegas. So, all right, moving on.
All right, me. Yes, I'm here too.
To Lance's right, Sir Ian
Gibson.
Gibson. Gibbo!
Gibbo.
Greetings.
Is that it?
That's it.
That's
That's
it.
all I got to say.
Thank goodness.
Okay. I don't know.
Keep it brief.
And then last but not least, Mr. Matt Legrand.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen of the internet? You guys look fan-freaking-tastic.
Oh, I'm not sure.
You
about that.
look like a spring morning, just breath of fresh air. You look so chipper, like you haven't been driving for 22 out of the past 24
I need
hours.
a shower and a cup of coffee, and I don't drink coffee, and I quit
And you-
taking showers.
and you don't shower.
Like 2 weeks ago.
You've showered about the same number of times that you've drank
Drink
coffee in your
That's
life.
correct.
So,
That's about right.
couple.
This has been Rock Talk.
Yes.
Oh, rock
Oh,
talk.
was I late on that? I'm
We
sorry.
we found the rock talk. Yeah.
Good old rock talk.
Awesome. Hey, we have been gone for a minute. We missed a
last week.
podcast last
We
week.
did.
So we'll make up for that in due time. I've actually got something that I was going to put out, and I just did not have time. So stay tuned. You'll get a little special added bonus that'll come down the pipeline here.
Oh, man.
Relatively soon. Should be fun. Anyway, backpedaling though, there's been a lot of crap going on these past couple weeks. Who would like to go first? Matt's over here staring off
Yes,
into
I always go first, right?
Yeah, why not?
So mostly I've been running. I did a 12-mile anniversary run with my wife.
Wow.
What? You ran 12 miles.
12 miles. And my right calf is paying the price for it, so I haven't been running that much since that run. That's okay. Cross-country season is in full swing. And I have just an insane... I have 130 kids.
Have you guys lost anybody or added anybody?
Yeah, we've lost a couple.
Yeah.
So I would say that we're not really 130 kids. We're probably 127. We have 130 registered athletes currently. So
Can kids add still?
Holy cow.
I know that they have to
Yes.
have a certain amount of
Yes.
practices before they can go to a meet, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
But if they wanted to come out and still run with you, you could swell back over that 130 mark, right?
Yeah.
Does that happen usually?
yes, usually it's the next 2 weeks or so. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we're crazy bigger than we've ever been in the school history, and bigger doesn't mean better necessarily, which is totally okay. But like you're working with a lot of kids. So last night I had this like meeting with 130 kids and their parents. We kind of like talk about like rules and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, this is like bigger than my high school.
That's
This
a
is
whole auditorium
huge.
full.
It was massive. It was massive. So a lot of people, a lot of pressure, and a lot of getting sunburned. In an odd like twist of events, I've also been coaching swimming this week. Swimming practices are at like 5:30 in the morning, and it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun. What's nice about swimming is I get to work with the brand new athletes. Like that's what I enjoy working with. Like I'm on we line up the lanes by like speed, and I'm working with like the new swimmers.
Okay.
So very interesting stuff. Like let's learn to do a flip turn. Let's learn to put your head in the water. Let's learn to like just crazy stuff. It's been I really quite enjoy that. I don't enjoy waking up quite that early, but
Right.
that's okay. And then I've been editing, and there's a lot of new product announcements and things like that. And I'll save something like that for my one last thing. I have not been on the bike much. I think I've biked a little bit. I can't remember, like just doing some little things. I need to get some.
Come out with us tonight. Do the last fog hat ride of the season.
That was last night.
Fog hat, not
Fog hat.
not flogging.
I'll be at cross country practice.
At 6 o'clock tonight.
I'll be finishing at 6.
Ooh,
I know.
you start at 6:05.
Okay. Well, what I've done in the past is like jumped on the bike and come and found you
Yeah,
guys. So,
we're gonna be really close to the lab because we do a special ride on the
last one.
night.
What's
It's
the
it's
route?
the turtle route.
Turtle route.
It's Strava art. It's like a
Oh,
big giant
I love
turtle.
it. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
cool. So
Yeah.
hey, quick question, follow up question. When you get up on stage and you start talking to all these
Yeah.
parents, do they know who you are? Did the one and only Matt LeGrand? Do people recognize you from the
Some
interwebs?
people know that I have, like a lot of the kids like know I have a channel. They're like, oh, you're wearing 2 watches. Why are you wearing 2 watches? It's because I review watches on YouTube. Then they go find that, and then they pass it around.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of them know who I am. This one kid this week was like, oh yeah, I was looking for a watch because we're starting cross country season, and I needed to find a watch. And I was searching on YouTube, and he was searching with his dad, and he was like, oh, that's my coach.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I review watches. Like, happy to tell you whatever if you want to learn about watches, I'm here
So
to help.
you get there up on stage, and does it start like?
What's up, ladies
Yes.
and gentlemen of the internet?
That's exactly how I start.
You guys are looking good.
That's how I start.
Particularly
And they all-
good, looking good today. I mean, I don't know. You guys seem
Yeah.
to look good every week.
They all stare blankly back at
And they're
you
like,
like,
what the hell
was
is going
that?
on? Yeah, the parents, I think they know that I'm a weirdo by this point, so it's okay. The new parents are just like, what are we getting ourselves into? But yeah, I think it went okay, and it's like just talk about there. It's a lot of like we have so much stuff. We have spike nights where they buy shoes. We have dinner nights. We have all these things like the calendar. Like this, you guys are you remember this where you get the start of the school year,
Right.
And it's just like, holy crap, all the activities get
What's
planned,
happening?
and your calendar explodes, and you're like, I have no time for anything. It's an absolute mess. So anyway, we're going through that right now, and I hate doing that to the parents, but they're all like, okay, let's get the calendars out, start to cry a little bit, and put more stuff on there, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. It'll be a fun season.
Cool. Ian, You, I think, raced your bike, if I'm not mistaken, since the last time we had a podcast.
Yes, since the last time we had a podcast, which was a couple of weeks ago, right?
2 weeks, yep.
2 weeks ago.
It's been 2 weeks since I raced. We finished up the road season. That's it. We're done, basically.
Yep.
I raced the Red R Crit, which was fun.
That ended up becoming the state championship after the Portland.
For the Pro 1-2.
Oh, is that what it was?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was
What was the state championship crit race for everybody else?
the Masters Criterium Championships was the race Lance and I did in Bend.
Oh, that's right.
And then
Chris
they
Horner
had
texted me and said to say hello to you,
Oh.
Ian.
Chris
Thanks,
Horner said hello.
Chris Horner said to say hello to you,
Wow.
Sir Ian Gibson.
Wow.
Good. Anyway, we did that. Raced with the 35 plus, the 50 plus, and 60 plus field. My big rival, Chris Brown, duked it out with him again, which was fun. And then before that, the last week of Tuesday PIR, which was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Doubled up on that, did 2 races, and I nearly won. So close. Which, big deal. You win a 3-4 race at PIR.
Wait,
but
you almost won the 3-4 race with all the kids?
Yes.
Ian
Yeah, I
Gibson.
know.
Are you kidding me?
I lost it by 6 inches to, get this, the 63-year-old guy lost the
No
race
way.
to a 16-year-old kid.
A
Like
16-year-old beat you.
you're like, I have cycling socks that are older than you, kid.
I know, right?
You got to throw that out there. You got to throw that out there.
It is
If he's-
cool. I
if he's
really
coming up
thought
on
I
you.
was going to, the sprint opened up. I followed some wheels. They ran out of steam. And before I knew it, the track was open in front of me. There's nobody there. And I just put my head down and went. And field of about 40 guys, I think. So
Good for you.
it was good because I feel quite proud of that. I'm basically the old man, the oldest in the race by 20 years.
Gotcha.
Sure.
Did you
awesome.
go to
Yeah.
the Portland crit? And I don't think, did they cancel the whole thing because of the
No.
weather?
No, they canceled the last races.
the 1-2 race?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
there was
The
still
women's race, the 1-2 women's race, and the 1-2-3 men's race
Okay.
were both canceled because of lightning, right?
I wasn't going to do it. I don't know. It's supposed to be a good race, but I had the course is kind of bumpy and narrow, and
Yeah, you get
I
bumpy
don't know.
and turns
The
and
year
technical.
before, there was a bunch of crashes, and I didn't want to
Yeah.
push it out.
Jake, one of our neighbors, like down on my street, their house got struck by lightning.
What?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I've got pictures if you want to see.
Seriously?
Yeah. Super crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's basically David Goodman's like next door neighbor.
That's who I was wondering if it
Yep.
was him. I remember
It
sitting
was
here.
not.
Yeah.
He said he was out to dinner and he sent me a message. He was like, "Can you check on my house? There's like a whole bunch of police and firemen out in front of our house," because he had used his Ring camera or whatever to check and see. And I was like, "Let me see."
Oh my gosh! Yeah, the
That's the picture I sent.
roof
did I
is
send it to
the
you?
No,
roof is smoked and on
This is
fire.
from your neighbor. Sent it to my daughter. Lily sent it to my daughter.
Lily? Okay.
Because we knew that a house got hit over there. My son and I were sitting in the house.
Oh,
and
so I sent it to Lily's parents. That's
is that what it was?
That's my
So
photo.
you
yeah.
took that photo?
Yeah,
Okay, funny. But anyway, long story short,
pretty
we're
sure.
sitting in the house and it's going bonkers, and you could hear it getting closer and closer because you get the thunder, and then you count, and then it's there. Well, a couple of them. Yep, that's funny. Your photo is circulating around,
Yeah.
and there was a point in time where like Flash and the Bang was at the same time, and Barrett and I
Yep.
both look outside. We're like, I think that just hit something outside of our house. We thought it was closer than it was, but it's
Yeah.
really not that far
No.
as far as
Well,
crow
0.2
flies. I mean,
miles.
As the crow flies, man, it is really close.
it's
to your
really
house.
close. If it's just
200
straight
yards
it-
away.
not even that, but
know.
he and I were like, wow, and like you could smell the air. There was like a scent that came through the air. I'm like, something got hit, and then sure enough, you hear the fire engines, and
Yeah.
I start texting my wife, and then things start circulating around, and that ended up making its way to me. So
Holy cow!
nice to know that I get to give you the credit for that photo, man.
Yes.
The same thing happened to me in Moab, where the lightning struck and you heard it crack at the same exact time, like less than 100 meters from me. I was in the van. Luckily.
Wasn't there some bad flash floods
Oh
over
yeah,
there?
yeah. That's a whole.
We'll get to that in a moment. So sorry,
Wow.
some tangents here, but
I like a good tangent.
yeah.
Podcast
Anyway,
tangent.
back to the race. You decided not to go, and they canceled the last 2 races, and they rolled that over for the state championship for those 1-2 races
Yeah.
into the Red R on
Red Eye,
Sunday.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So it was good. It was a good time. The last week of racing was good. Last week I was out of town. I did not take my bike. We went out in our van to Central Washington, which was a great little road trip.
Sweet.
Yeah, a week ago, I was in a part of the Cascades up there called the Enchantments,
Yes.
just outside of Leavenworth, which is a beautiful area. But my wife and I went on a 11-mile hike, and I thought I'm in good shape, right? I ride fast. I did.
Hiking's
I'm
different
feeling
beast.
great, but
Yeah.
but it makes you realize how specific your fitness is.
You probably climbed really well, but that used
Oh, yeah.
different muscle groups. But coming back down, the eccentric
Yes,
loading that your body
yes.
starts to take, your legs start to get a little jello-y, and you're like, what's going on here? This shouldn't be happening. I'm this fit
I
athlete.
mean, it was a challenging hike. There's a lot of elevation, a lot of big rocks, so you're stepping down long
Did your wife?
ways.
Did she wait for you, or did she just? Do that?
She does hike a lot more than I do. I used to hike all the time. I used to do it for a living over in Germany, but the next day I could barely walk.
wrecked. Yeah.
It's hard. So that was good. We ended up driving through the North Cascades, which we got rained out of there. Basically, it poured of rain, and then we ended up taking the ferry across to Port Townsend up there, which was really beautiful. Hung out there for a while and drove back on Sunday. So it was a good trip, a good break from the routine.
Yeah.
This week I've been back on it.
Cool.
Yeah, that's me.
Okay. Guys, hunkered down now? You ready for like
Are
the
we
next
ready
half
for
an
this?
hour?
That's right. This is at least a half an hour talking.
On your mark, set, go. Lance friggin' Hepler.
Okay, well, I did do Steamboat Gravel, which that was like
I've heard
2
of it.
weeks ago.
Heard of it.
It was 2 full
Yeah,
weeks
almost,
ago
yeah.
that I did Steamboat. Fantastic race, fantastic town. The organization was great. The way they did the race was all fantastic. I was there with Chris Surratt. He was doing the 125-mile race. I was doing the 100-mile race.
Did you guys saw each other in the race though, or no? That was I was looking at Instagram and there was a lot of like pre-ride.
Yes, we did several
shenanigans.
pre-rides together, and we did some post-ride stuff together, and it was all good.
Don was there, right?
Don was there. I never ran into him.
Oh, is that right?
Did you
Our
not see him
teammate.
one time the entire
I did
time?
not see him one time.
Interesting.
Yeah, it
Must
just
have been
it
doing
just-
a really good job of hiding from you.
It just didn't work out because all our races started at different times. Chris's race started at 6:05 a.m., but my race started at 8 a.m. So 2 hours later.
Wow.
But the 125-mile race, that extra 25 miles was almost all climbing, and so we thought we would link up at the point where the race came together. Mile 40 for us, mile 65 for them. But I ended up being like 10 miles ahead of him because I went way too hard.
Yeah, I don't know. Even if you were, 1 or 2 miles ahead of him, it would have been weird to it would have been hard to find people.
We were trying to gauge it
Yep.
so that we could ride the last 60 miles together. But
I still look back on that. I did it 3 years ago, I think, and it was probably one of the best racing experiences I've had. It was so, like you said, it's so well organized.
You've done more gravel races and events than anybody I know. How would you rank that?
as far as race organization, it was fantastic. It was great. The locals don't like us.
Really?
The locals don't want us there. Steamboat is a
Hoity-toity.
well, not really. It's mostly ranchers and miners, and then the ski town right in the middle of it. And all the gravel roads are out in the ranch lands, and the ranchers don't want all the freaking bikes out there.
They don't want the traffic.
There was protesting by ranchers during the race.
Peaceful protesting.
Peaceful protesting.
That is.
Was
I
it
respect
peaceful, or
that.
were they trying to block the
No,
roads?
they
or
didn't block the roads, but
throw
there were
cow crap at you or anything?
They had signs up in places that said, no gravel races, no gravel bike races with a big red circle and a red slash through it. So you saw those all over the course. But then again, you'd come around a corner and there'd be some rancher and he would stop his truck and say, look, you guys want to come into my house and fill your water bottles? Come on. Come right on up here. You want to go into the fridge and into the kitchen and get something to drink? You guys are more than welcome here. So
Wow.
it was a vocal minority that was making a big stake.
So there were some that were there that were like trying to like offset the a-holes. if you will.
Yes.
Do you think that's putting the future of that event in jeopardy?
It has. That's the race course this year was extremely different than other races because they had to change where it went to appease some of the ranchers and some of the areas, and it's been known as the Champagne of Gravel, area, where the roads are just beautiful and gorgeous, but they changed the race so much it made it way freaking harder, way more harder. So there was a lot more. It wasn't as some of the gravel was just fantastic. Some of it was champagne, and the rest of it was whiskey, and that stings a little bit. Apparently, I've been told.
Apparently.
So
There's a lot of alcohol talk on this.
a lot of alcohol talk.
Yeah, it's funny that your race course was over a completely different course to mine.
Correct.
Different elevation gain, different roads completely. Yet our times were like within 1 minute of each other.
That's right.
From like 540 something.
I was 550, and
Yeah.
it was 7,000 feet of climbing.
Yeah.
So a lot of fun. I think I was in like
at altitude too, right?
that was at altitude. It started at 7,000 feet and went up to 8,500 feet a couple times.
That's actually pretty rough.
I actually didn't feel bad all day. I mean, I had good legs and felt okay. It wasn't too warm, but I battled cramps from like mile 40 to mile 100. Just because so I stopped at every aid station and was downing pickle juice and all sorts of stuff. And part of it was
So
because I
much
went a
pickle
little
juice.
too hard.
Did you throw up pickle juice?
I did not
I think there's
throw
There's a
up.
photo of that somewhere.
There's gotta be. It was throwing up salsa, I think.
I know, right?
Anyway, so really enjoyed it. Chris Surratt, this was kind of a celebration race for him because he's back from his injury. He was only able to do the short course last year because it was his first one back. We were texting each other during the race. I was trying to keep track of him, and he was trying to keep track of me.
Use like Garmin Live Track or anything like that?
You see the texts come up, and so there was good enough, service in some areas that I could see it, but
You share your location on your
we
iPhones?
do, yeah. So but you just had to have good enough service for that to happen. But I ended up being 10 miles ahead of him at the point where we were going to try to link up, and at that point he was like, "Go."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Okay, I'm going to try to stay with this group." I was in a group with Ben Delaney, and I was in the big second group on the road, and so I was trying to stay with this big group, and which I didn't quite do.
Who won the pro race?
The Keegan Swenson won
Or
the
should
men's.
We could
No,
always
no,
wait
no.
for our...
Keegan Swenson won the men's race. He kind of he won by 6 or 7 minutes. He kind of pulled away on the hard stuff. The women's race was a little bit of controversial because Lauren Stevens won. She is the current gravel national champion for the U.S. But the rumor is that her husband rode with her and carried all the nutrition in bottles and fed them to her as they were riding. And so there was a little bit of
What about drafting?
Scuttlebutt, yeah.
What about... I mean,
there's no rule against drafting.
I know, but if the husband is like, "I'm going to pace you,"
Yes, he could
I mean,
have.
like that's a
Yes.
little bit.
I got passed by several because
It's not that it's against the rules, but it's like then everyone would start to be like, okay, if you want to be competitive in this race, you need a Sherpa that's basically
Right.
like you're time trialing on someone's wheel, and if that's not in the spirit of gravel, what's the spirit of gravel or whatever we always joke about? Like,
Yes.
then come on,
the
like,
women need their own start so that they're not drafting all the men, and it makes a difference in the race, which they changed for next year.
Oh,
They've
okay.
already announced it, so it was enough scuttlebutt.
Huh. So did they make a change though for like riding along with somebody and handing them all of their hydration, nutrition, and all that other stuff? I mean, because how much weight would that save if you've got somebody that's doing that for you?
Are they going to start the girls like an hour early? Because an hour would be a killer amount of time. If
No.
it's 20 minutes, then it's like, well, wait a minute.
They start them after the men because otherwise,
Well, that's-
They'll ride through 'em, yeah.
The men will ride through them, and they'll
I know, but then the husband just waits.
see. It's not simple.
No, it's not simple.
Why they haven't done it yet? But they do it. If you do a marathon,
Yep.
the men and women have completely separate starts, right?
No, some of them. Maybe.
It's some of the big
Yeah,
races.
yeah.
If you did the Olympic marathon, they have separate
races. Yeah,
They don't
yeah.
race all together. Why is that taking so hard to drift down to gravel?
But I don't even think that has a lot to do with like drafting or anything like that. I think that has more to do with just the logistics and things like that. Plus, there's just no drafting or grabbing someone's water bottles is illegal for like if I'm running, even like male to male or female, I can't hand someone, if we're pro athletes, I can't hand someone a water bottle.
Yeah.
Like that's against the rules.
I guess
so. You can't like help another athlete like that way. You can't Sherpa them, but they should probably adjust some rules in addition to that.
If it's a race,
as
they need to have those rules. It's just that simple.
It's tricky and it'd be really difficult to police. And so that's why they haven't made a no drafting rule or women can't draft the men or even age group men. You know, they don't have that rule. And so it's still allowed. It actually affected the race at Leadville the week before.
Yeah.
Where the leader was off the front, but who was it? Sophia Sophia Gomez Villafane. I think I said it right. She was gaining on second, but she was sitting in a group of three men and three guys, and she was able to catch the person that was in second place and pass because. It wasn't because she was sitting in that group.
She got pulled up.
She got pulled up.
Yeah. So what do you think about that?
And when she crossed the line, she immediately went back and said, "I'm so sorry. You really should have second, but they kind of shared a moment together, the second place and the third place finisher, because that's the way the rules are. It's okay for them to do that at the moment. They haven't made that. But she's like, you know, I'm with this group. I'm going to stay with this group.
Yeah, you're not gonna
because in a road race, you can't take advantage from a different field to the one you started in.
Correct.
No.
Right? You can't just sit in somebody else's field.
But these gravel races in Leadville's not even a gravel race.
How do they do that triathlon, Matt? Because it's got to happen when you're on these big giant courses and people are out there. Like you
can. So there's no rules. You can draft while swimming. And you can draft while running, although there's not that much to
but
it.
when you're on the bike.
But on biking, there's no drafting at all.
Exactly. But when you're out there, how do they police that? Because they can't be watching, have eyes on.
They have motorbikes that go around and they literally look for drafting, and you get a warning or a penalty.
Yeah, if you're doing like an Ironman, a full Ironman, that's a lot of miles to have to police. Do they have enough motorcycles out there to keep an eye on?
They don't.
Yeah.
And you'll see huge draft packs.
Yeah.
And you're like, I mean, blatantly obvious, like, people breaking the rules. You don't see it as much. The pointier end, you don't see it as much.
Right.
Because those people, a 10-minute violation for them is like a pretty big deal. The back of the pack, some of them don't know, but usually in an Ironman, they should know better.
You got 3,000 people on a course. They're going to stack up somewhere.
Yep. They're going to stack up somewhere. And there's a difference, but like, and this actually even happens in the pro race where it's like this gets really crowded and you can't pass unless you pass a massive amount of people. And so the whole drafting thing becomes its own whole issue, and the logistics of that become really tricky. And so gravel doesn't want to be triathlon. That's the last thing that gravel wants to be. But I do think that they could just like, here are the rules, and
there'll be some changes.
Yeah.
Things will evolve. It will change a little bit because this kind of needs to be sorted out so that it makes it more fair. And the more prize money and the more it'll just get more professionalized, gravel will, as we move on,
At least the lady that finished second that should have finished third was I don't know how to describe it. Like, she was professional about it. I know that's the wrong word, but like, she was, hey, this probably should be your award, and this should probably be your prize money and whatever it is. To me, that's just good sportsmanship. Like, I love that.
Do any of these issues actually trickle down to the main body of the competition, which is basically the amateurs, right? Steamboat is like 3,000 or 4,000 people.
It was
right?
3,000.
So how much of those nuances at the top end of the pointy end of the pro field are actually relative to?
Well, think about all of those age group awards and things like that. I bet every single one of those people has like, well, I sat in this draft pack perfectly, and that worked out to my advantage.
There's no money in the age group awards. There's money for the top 5 for the professionals.
Do you get a plaque or a belt buckle or
you get a plaque.
Yeah, slap on the ass.
Yeah, you get a plaque if you're top 5.
So
in your age group. So there's that. But yeah, I mean, the whole rest of the race, I mean, the first 40 miles or the first 20 miles, I sat at the back of a 150 person peloton.
Right.
Just
And theoretically, you could have sat up and chilled out, waited for Chris, and then been his Sherpa, handed him nutrition.
Yes, I could have.
And then sat in front of him.
Yes, I could have.
And that would have theoretically helped his race
Yes, it would have.
significantly. He
Yeah.
probably would have dropped minutes
Yeah.
off of his time. So no one would have even been able to say anything. That wouldn't have been against the rules.
No.
It's just against the spirit of the gravel
yes,
gods.
correct.
So
Yeah.
we need more
So it makes it
jorts.
interesting.
We need more jorts in gravel, and we need more rules.
I think I was at mile 90 and I got passed by Barry Wicks, who is a Bend former pro and he was in jorts. And I'm like, Barry Wicks, you're freaking passing me in jorts. But he's a former professional. It was an honor to be passed by
I feel
Barry
like
Wicks.
they should just have one rule, and it should be like obey the spirit of the gravel, and then they can just implement that rule however they want to.
The spirit of gravel is like
It's hilarious.
dying.
Was he wearing just straight jorts for the whole race?
Yes, he wore
For
jorts.
120
Dude,
miles?
It's Barry Wicks, man, former professional. Yeah,
Dude,
he-
that is that's some calloused undercarriage there.
I love that guy, man. He's a pretty cool guy. Anyway, the lot happened with that race. Chris Surratt actually ended up kind of imploding and not finishing the race.
no.
He only made it to like mile 65, and it was just
He needed you as the Sherpa.
he went a little too hard at the beginning, and it was really front loaded with some difficult, not just hills, but like difficult terrain. Like
okay.
me and Surratt pre-rode like the most difficult part of the course, like 2 days before, and broke a spoke. And we couldn't fix the broken spoke. We had to buy new wheels so Chris could like even compete in the race. It was yes, it was a whole thing.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it was a whole thing.
You didn't have a spare wheel on your...
I didn't have spare wheels. He didn't have spare wheels because he flew, and we were trying to find a way to get the wheel fixed, and we couldn't make it work right. And like, oh, here's a set of wheels that are for sale. I guess we need to just do that.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And then it was even complicated for us to seat wheels and tires.
They were a pair of like Schwinn wheels that were stainless steel. You know those babes are going to hold up against the elements.
They're a pair of Zip 303s. They're great wheels.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it was crazy. Anyway, and I didn't know Chris was having trouble, and like I got to mile like 85, and like this was a weird point for me. I was kind of falling apart at the end, and after being out there for 5 hours, you're kind of smoked,
loopy.
And then I finally see these text messages coming from Chris's wife and Brandy and Chris that he had to pull out, and I like just burst into tears while I was riding because I wanted this to be like a great day for Chris. We were there together, and it just like hit me like a truck, like that Chris wasn't going to finish the race, and anyway, it was kind of an emotional moment. So, but we still had a great time out there together. It was really nice to be there. So anyway, that was Steamboat Gravel. Holy crap, that was 2 weeks ago. There's too much.
I'll tell you about
happening.
every ride that happened since that 2 weeks. And every time I went to the bathroom, I'm going to tell you guys details about it. Go, Lance. Backpedal for us.
Next one. So from there, Brandon and I drove to Moab because we were trying to, my son is having vehicle trouble, and we're trying to help him solve vehicle trouble.
Didn't he just get this car kind of new-ish?
He bought himself a new car because...
A new to him car? Or
he bought his own car.
Was it brand new or was it...
It was it's 3 years old.
Okay.
So he bought himself a new used car because he's having so much trouble with the vehicles that I've been pawning off on him. And so we were trying to solve that, and that became really complicated. So we're trying to solve all that, and at the same time, all my college buddies were coming to Moab because they were gonna 4x4 the White Rim Trail. So the White Rim Trail is a 100-mile loop that goes through Canyonlands National Park, completely stunning scenery and gorgeous stuff. And I'm like, you guys are 4x4ing it. I'm gonna ride my mountain bike. That's perfect. I'll have like support vehicles with me. So because it's a very popular 100-mile mountain bike route that people do, but they usually do it in a day, or all the fast people do. But we had like a campsite we were supposed to go like 65 miles the first day and camp, but there was massive thunderstorms. We already talked about this the night before. There was flash flooding in Moab. The downtown street of Moab completely flooded the night before. But we only have the permits for this white rim trail are really hard to get because the campsites, there's only 1 or 2 people per campsite. And he got this like 8 months ago.
Oh, geez.
So, and August is not a great time to be riding in Moab on your mountain bike because it's too hot and it's kind of monsoon season. And so we started this 100-mile loop and we got 20 miles in, which included a 2,000-foot drop down a switchbacky road into a canyon. And we hit impassable mud from the nights before.
Yeah, that's scary
Did
stuff
anybody
too,
get stuck?
actually.
Wow.
So I was leading because the mountain bike is way faster than the 4x4 Jeeps. So
You kind of scout out things for
So
them, right?
I was kind of scouting out things, and I ran into 2 Jeeps that were coming the other way through a part of that had mudded out, and one of them immediately got stuck in the mud, like to the axles.
Oh, no.
And so they were able to winch. The guy that was with him was able to winch that Jeep out, and we realized at that point we didn't have winches, and we didn't have the tire clearance that those Jeeps had. And so we're like, no.
Yeah.
This is our turnaround point. And we were 20 miles into a 100-mile loop. And so instead, we were supposed to ride to mile 65. So instead, we rode back up that 2,500-foot climb and around the other way to our campsite.
How far was that?
I ended up doing like an 81-mile day
On
a mountain bike. It was like 7 hours. And I was prepped that day for like 60 or 55.
Yeah.
And most of it downhill. So I was a little...
Worst case scenario, you could have jumped in one of the
Yes.
Yeah, that's
the
true.
vehicles, right?
We didn't have a real good way for my bike to go on theirs.
They don't have bike racks on those?
They
No,
don't.
you could just take the wheels off and throw them in the back, right?
Yeah, but they're like, it was filled with all their freaking
Yeah.
camp stuff. It was a whole thing. I ended up not. There was a point where I should have thrown my bike in,
Yeah.
but it was too complicated. I just rode it.
Yeah.
So
You
anyway,
have any new scars or scrapes?
that wasn't the issue. The issue was as I was prepping for the White Rim Trail, I was making sure my mountain bike was right after being on the gravel bike all week.
Yeah.
And I kept having problems with my rear wheel going flat, so I had to replace the rear wheel. And I was testing a new rear tire that I had to buy and seat in Moab, and I completely botched a climb, crashed, and I'm pretty sure I broke my hand.
Oh,
What?
Lovely.
Well, which
I think I broke this bone right
Okay.
here. I actually can't like straighten, but you don't really need your pinky.
well,
so-
the other thing is they can't do anything about that. You might get a wrist brace.
yeah. So I haven't had
You know-
it checked.
You should probably go get an X-ray.
I was gonna say, if you hadn't slept for too long this morning, you could have gone to Brandy's appointment with her.
Yes, I
Yeah.
Yeah, both put your hands
There's like
out
this
there.
episode of The Office where Michael Scott's like trying to stuff his leg into the
right.
MRI machine. Like that could be you. You're like Brandy's getting.
Can you look at this?
Brandy's
Look
like
at this.
Brandy's like in the middle of getting an X-ray, and you're like shoving your arm in there. Sir, could you please step away from the X-ray machine? Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that
Let's do
happened like 2 days before the White Rim, and I still rode that 130 miles or whatever I did those over
Ouch.
2 days. But it's just the pinky, so my hand still works. I just can't grip with my pinky. Anyway,
How's it going to affect
Good
you this
job. You
weekend?
don't have to do technical dentistry anymore.
I know.
You can be able to cross race?
Yeah, I should still be able to cross race. I'm just gonna go do it.
You should go do an X-ray if you can.
I
Let's-
might-
No,
might
you
try to
have
do
his,
that,
because if
his
it's
and her
broken-
broken hands.
Yeah, that's right. That's
But
right.
if they tell me if I have a broken hand, they're gonna be like, "No, don't go."
Don't,
do
yeah,
the race.
well, which might be a smart thing to think about. I know this is crazy.
It's only bad if I crash on it again,
or
which is a high
just like
probability.
a lot of the rattling, I think maybe could be more separation in the. I don't know.
Couldn't be more than 8 hours on a mountain bike.
I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. Okay, Lance.
Just married one, yep.
I know. I look like a doctor because of the, but I'm not.
But you're not.
Rub some dirt on it.
Anyway, spent some more time in Utah. Went to I kept riding every day anyway. So
Good on you.
Didn't quite
White
make it
Rim,
to one of those.
This is cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm gonna shut up. That was way too much. I have way more stories, but I'm not gonna bore you with
All of them involve nudity, but let's move on. No one wants to hear that.
Jake, what about you?
Well, I was gone last week as well. I went to Pennsylvania, took my daughter to start school at Penn State, and Ian and I were talking about this before we got started, but there's no easy way to get to Penn State from the Pacific Northwest, it turns out. And we've gone a collective total time of 3 times now, 4.
Is there a flight from Portland to Pittsburgh?
Yeah. Well, no. You have to. You pretty much are
Chicago or
taking.
something.
There's always a connection to get to the end destination. Penn State is smack dab in the middle of Pennsylvania. There is a small airport in Penn State, or at Penn State in State College. However, nothing flies direct there from here, of course. And then to get there, you can fly from here to Philly or I'm sorry, not Philly, but say like Chicago or Detroit or something like that, and then go into State College. But the airfare tickets are like exponentially higher. So it's ridiculous, but it doesn't ultimately save you all that much more time. So we have found that the most efficient way for us to get there is only having one connection flight. And on both ends, not both ends. We don't have to drive very far to get to the airport, but we have to either leave here and go to the 3 major hubs. I'm rambling on here. You guys probably don't want to hear about this. Are going to be Atlanta, Dallas, or Minneapolis. And then you have to take a connection flight to either Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or Harrisburg. And then once you get to one of those 3 cities, it's anywhere from 2.5 to 3 hours or 3.5 hours of a drive to get to State College. So the fastest way that we've found to get there takes 14 hours, doorstep to doorstep.
Oh, wow.
Every single time. So yeah, I flew out there and back. And so that was 28 hours of my life that I'll never get back, trying to travel with a million knuckleheads.
I was telling Jake I can get from my house to my mum's house in Leicester, England in 15 hours door to door.
Yeah. And that's including him taking
Yeah.
trains and tunnels and all kinds of crazy stuff.
You
So
can get to England, the middle of England,
You can get
faster.
to, yeah.
And you
You
can
can't
even
get to
get,
State
and you can probably
College.
get to London
London's 9.5 hours.
yeah. But at the end of the day, it's worth it because she is absolutely loving it there. It was it's rough dropping off your firstborn and knowing that they're going to be that far away from you. But at the end of the day, as long as she's happy and thriving, that's all that really matters.
How's her roommate?
Her roommate's fantastic.
Nice.
They actually they didn't use any kind of a service through the school. It has something to do with not Facebook, I'm sorry, Instagram. And all of the people that are incoming freshmen go onto this thing that's on Instagram. I'm like, I didn't know that they had like groups or anything like that, but whatever it is, they were able to connect there. You have to pay like $20 to get into this. And she met her current roommate back in May and they just hit it off right away. And they've been connecting and talking and,
Wow.
Snapchatting and all the things that kids do. And they seem to really like each other. And as soon as Delaney got there, she and Abby have been just like 2 peas in a pod having fun. So
Good.
yeah. So, yep, she is, she just finished her first full week there. And yeah, it's kind of fun. The football season is about ready to kick off and Penn State's ranked 8th in the nation right now. So that should be kind of fun and she got tickets. They have a lottery system there for the kids to get tickets. And she was able to get tickets to watch Penn State play at Beaver Stadium. And fun fact, that's the 4th largest stadium in the world.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like 106,000 plus seats at this stadium, and they're actively doing some renovations, and they're going to be adding more seating, and they're going to be giving it some facelift stuff. And
They're always doing that, where they're like, if we get a couple more seats in here, we're ranked number 1 in
they're
NCAA.
They're not too far behind Michigan. Michigan
is
the
huge.
number 1, the big house, and then the other 2 stadiums are in like. God, was it like Korea or South Korea? And then the other one's like in India or something like that.
I looked this up one time too. and
Yeah,
was
I
like,
think the
it's
biggest one's like 156,000 people. So they'll never get to that. But still, as far as college football goes, that's pretty stinking big.
Wow.
So
big.
yeah, should be fun. And we'll be going back to visit her in October to see her during the Parents Weekend, which is a lot of fun.
Oh, cool.
Other than that, back to bike-related stuff. We finished with the very last flogging ride last night. So we put a season
Was
cap
it
on it.
spicy?
It was spicy. Yeah, it was good times. Not as well attended as I was expecting for the last ride. I mean, we still had decent numbers, but there wasn't as many people out there as I would have thought there'd be. But it was still good numbers. And
Did you guys see like a whole bunch of police officers in like a fire truck on your way out?
no.
On your way out of the flogging ride?
Did something happen?
Yeah, has nothing to doesn't relate to biking, but I had to call like 911 from our practice because some weirdo was out there. Like,
Oh, fun.
yeah,
Oh, that's always good times. And had some good power numbers as well. Like I was riding and we're doing one of the climbs to get out there. And I remember sitting on somebody's wheel going, man, we're kind of going a little bit slow. I think I should attack. And I looked down and I was like holding 340 watts to stay on their wheel. I'm like, Well, that's a good problem to have. I feel pretty good. And I was expecting to look down and see like 170 or not 170, but 270 watts. And it was significantly higher than that. And I'm like, okay, let's just sit in for a little bit. And I had no idea.
Out, Obra. Next year, the year
We'll
of
see.
Jake.
I've got to stay healthy for another 6 months, see if I can make that happen. But I ended up tying a KOM for the sprint finish.
Oh, fantastic.
Which was kind of cool. I wasn't even paying attention. I uploaded my ride and titled it, and I didn't even go back and look at it. And our friend Rich Ensworth made a comment on there because I beat him in the sprint. And he's like, well, at least if I know that getting beat was you getting a KOM, so, something along those lines. And I look back, I'm like, well, holy crap, I tied Adam Raymond.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of cool. So now part of that was Aaron Sander gave us a good lead out, and we were all going pretty hard. And I came around him just after the turn and just kept it on. I actually sat up a little bit because I gapped him, and if I had pushed all the way through, I would have gotten the
Probably got it.
Yeah, but anyway, it was a fun ride. And then tonight we have the last fog out ride of the season, and I think that's just about it for our scheduled weekly road rides. We will still continue to do the Tuesday night gravel ride until the weather turns to crap and gets too dark and whatnot. But other than that, yeah, been good times.
Fantastic.
Yep. Now that it's 45 minutes into this thing and we're just
that's
now
not
finishing
bad.
with the back pedal.
We can
I could tell more stories.
our topic. We can shorten that
can
baby up.
shorten
Don't worry about
that boy
that.
up.
We can
So-
definitely shorten that up.
All right. There is one thing that I will scratch off, and we'll skip that right now. Let's jump into this stuff.
Champ Bailey.
Champ is here, kind of, not really. He's a little punch drunk.
Does Champ Bailey know anything about any
Okay.
world tour racing?
There has been some good World Tour racing the last 2 years. We need just to comment about the Tour de France Femmes avec Swift.
Oh yeah.
It was phenomenal. That last day stage was as good as watching racing gets, if in my opinion. That Demi Vollering was she was a minute behind Cassia Nuadoma, who is the wife of, what's his name? The former pro. Who's the former pro that lives over there? Why can't I think of it? Anyway. Okay. Anyway.
U.S. Pro?
Yes. Taylor Finney.
Okay. Okay.
She's married to Taylor Finney.
Gotcha.
They just got married. That took me a minute for that to come up. But Demi Vollering was a minute behind, and on this last stage, which was the climb up Alpe d'Huez,
Is
Up
that
the West.
West.
Same thing, different. And it is sponsored by
I'll tell
Swift.
you,
Zwift?
punch drunk.
Punch
I
drunk.
need more than 2.5 hours.
Zwift was a major sponsor.
It was,
which is pretty cool.
You're not supposed to say Tour de France
Without Zwift.
Femmes without saying avec Swift. Anyway,
Yeah, we're gonna abide by those rules because we are
So-
strict about our sponsors.
so they're
Spirit of the
going up.
rules, yep.
They're going up Alpe d'Huez, and Demi Vollering just empties herself and wins the stage, but Cassia Nuadoma ends up holding on to the leader's jersey by 4 seconds.
It's interesting
4
that
seconds.
It's interesting that the women went up that and the guys didn't this year.
Yeah. And it was only 8 stages for the women.
Yeah.
I mean, they deserve like 14 or 20 stages.
Sure.
Is that something that they're all calling for? That they would like?
I think the women are calling for it.
Okay.
Yeah. They would like to see it be expanded and a little bit bigger and a more on
I'd be
par.
curious to see some of the analytics on that and figure out what the viewership was like and figure out if the sponsorships are coming in and the money's making
Yeah.
it worth everybody's while.
It was. I don't know what those numbers are yet, but my goodness, it was good watching, very good watching. So it was very cool to see. So, and Demi Vollering kind of botched it earlier because she crashed with there was a whole bunch of drama with that because she crashed with 6K to go on a stage. None of her teammates came back to help her. She sat on the side of the road for a couple minutes, making sure she was okay, and lost 2.5 minutes that day.
Yep, I remember. Yeah.
If she had gotten back on her bike a little quicker, she probably would have won the
Yep.
whole tour. Anyway, good on you, Demi Vollering.
Yeah.
So that was very cool. It was very fun to watch. And then we're in the middle of the Vuelta. We are, 11 stages in? 13 stages in.
Yeah, I think
11.
it is 13.
Can't
12 or
think
13,
straight.
something like that.
So it's been very exciting as well. There's, Roglic is in there. Sepp Kuss is not quite on the same form as he was last year, so he's not quite in it.
He seems pretty content to just
He is?
help out. And he did have he had a little crash, didn't he?
Yeah, he did go down, but he didn't really lose much time.
Okay.
And he led Wout out
yep.
on a sprint stage,
Yep.
which was, I mean, for a skinny guy like Seb to do is pretty phenomenal. And Wout's won 3 stages, which is really cool.
Yeah. He
But-
was in the leader jersey for a day.
He was
Yep.
for a day or two. Now he's in the green jersey. He also took the polka dot jersey today, but that will not last after tomorrow. So Wout has 2 jerseys. And Ben O'Connor is our current leader.
That has been fun.
It has
And
been very cool.
Like there was a day that he got away and he went bonkers, and the field kind of let it happen, and they just reacted too late, and next thing you know, he had close to 6 minutes.
They should know he's a superstar.
He is, but he had a crap year last year. But he had a great year 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So they probably kind of thought that it's going to be okay. Plus, you had UAE and who's the other big team that's trying to? They had 2 teams that were like, you should be pulling, O'Connor back. No, you should be pulling O'Connor
Bora?
back.
Bora.
It was
Yeah.
Bora.
Yeah.
So Bora and UAE were both like looking at each other, and nobody would really take the reins because they didn't want to spend their bullets to try to bring Ben O'Connor back. It was a windy road, so it was better for a single or a duo break up the road than a whole peloton trying. So there was a couple things that happened to let him get away. So he ended up getting like 6 minutes, which was fantastic. He does not have 6 minutes anymore.
Minute and a half
He
or
has like a minute and a half on Roglic. Roglic took
Roglic
2
looks
minutes
good.
back. Yeah,
I think
Roglic looks good, and Enric Mas looks really
Enric Mas
good too.
looks good, but I think Roglic looks better between those two. And if you think about it, they have 7 days left.
Yes.
I think that's and it's all climbing stuff.
Roglic could easily crash in the next 7 days.
When is
There's also
Roglic going to
that.
crash? So yeah, if Roglic stays upright, I think he's got it.
I think,
He
Ian,
looks
if I
good.
remember right, you picked Roglic, right? And I think Matt and Lance picked Sepp.
Remember I said you have to pick between Sepp and Kuss. Those were your picks.
Okay,
right.
gotcha.
That's
But
And then I picked Wout, but knowing that Wout wasn't going to do it, but it's he's looking pretty good in some of those
Roglic.
jerseys. So yeah, Roglic is
Yeah.
probably going to be the one to beat. That should be interesting to see if he can keep the rubber side down and if his team can bring him back.
Enric Mas looked really good, but
Mas looks good.
today Roglic put a minute into him. He couldn't stay.
and that was probably in the last 5K, wasn't
it was
it?
like in the last 3K.
That's
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah,
a lot of space.
because it was the last 5K was like 10.5%
Yep.
or something. It was steep.
And is there like a decisive looking TT in this race, or
I have no idea.
you don't know? I think is the last stage a TT? I'm not sure.
I'm also
no idea.
not
No.
sure.
That will play into Roglic.
Well, if anybody knows how to win the Vuelta, it's Roglic. He's done it 3 times, so fourth maybe.
This would be his 4th.
Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
crazy. Anything else? Oh, did you see the stage where Wout got away and they were in the break and he was with the little the climber guy? I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Yes.
And the guys are like, yeah, this is like a 1 in a billion chance for him to beat Wout. And there was a
There's no
point in time they were
chance.
just, I think they were, I don't know, maybe right around 1K to go, and the guy like tried to like sneak off the side and like put in a big attack on him, and Wout just like immediately jumped on his wheel and just kind of laughed. And the guy's like, God dang it!
Not only did Wout close it down immediately,
Yeah.
but he didn't even stand up. He
No.
took like 2 pedal
Little
strokes
strokes.
and was like right
Run
back
his-
on his
yeah.
wheel. It's like,
And just kind of sat on his wheel, and
Well-
like the guy was like drifting, and he was just staying right behind him. And then when it's time for him to go,
He's had a bad season, so this is good to see him having.
3 wins this year. 3 wins in the Vuelta.
That's-
this year.
I mean, he needs
had
an
an early.
right?
He
Like-
had an early season win before his crash, and then his crash took him out. Yeah. So,
So it's good to see him have some good days.
it is. It is. It's exciting. It's,
we
it
like
makes
him.
we do like him. So it's been good.
cool. Anything else?
No, champ out.
All right, let's jump into our topic
Moving right along,
for this week: cyclocross.
cyclocross.
They say that cross is coming. It's here. It's not coming
Cross-
anymore.
cross
It's
is coming.
It's coming on Sunday. That's when it starts here in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes, it starts on Sunday in Madras, Oregon, at Madras Cross. Yeah.
And cyclocross, I just finished the race and I was like, that sucked. Crashed a couple times. My
Crashed a couple
bike
times.
handling isn't that great. Yes, I'm not good at this. And I thought I was going to be good.
I did. I remember that. I remember thinking like, oh, I think this is going to be my new thing.
I'm gonna be good.
I'm going to be done with triathlon. I'm going to be a cyclocross
Well,
racer. I'm
you
gonna
think
be
that's
good there.
bad? This Madras race, I really wish I could go to it. I'll be away. But
talk about last year.
talking about bike handling, I managed to crash and take skin off, like in the parking lot before the race started.
On the pavement.
During the warm up.
Ian was warming up.
I was
and
the only
crashed
guy
in
at the
parking
start
lot.
line with bandages. Yeah.
You didn't see a speed bump coming, hit the speed bump, went down. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So the way that this is going to work, I didn't tell these guys because I wanted to keep them on not the hot seat, but something akin to that. Is as we go through this, we're going to create a top 10 list about cyclocross. It could be anything. It could be tips, things not to do, things to do, whatever, and we'll throw those out as we go. But before we get into that, and feel free to add things to the list as we go, let's talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of cyclocross. So, since I said good, Lance, you're a resident cyclocross racer. What are some good things about cyclocross?
Oh, dude, it's more of a party than any other race that you go to.
How does it compare to mountain biking in that way?
Well, it's even more better. It's better than mountain biking as
Mo
far
better?
as more. It's more better than as far as
In mountain bike, you got
race
your-
atmosphere.
In mountain bike, you got your campers. We're camping out. We're doing this, and then with like cyclocross, we got you're like we're partying. There's drinking. The blah blah blah. There's hand ups. There's dollar bills. Like we're weird. We're weird and funny.
And
Yeah.
they're doing 8 laps right in front of you. And in most mountain bike races, unless it's short track, they're gone for a half hour before they come back through the
Interesting
race
that
area.
each of the little bike subset like things have their own weird cultures, like gravel
Yes.
with your jorts and your
Yes.
mountain biking with your I don't know what
bros. Yep.
Yeah, and then you've got like cyclocross with we're weird and here's a dollar bill and road
here's
cycling would just point their nose up at someone handing out a dollar bill. They'd be like, "What
Your
are
socks
you
are too
doing?
short."
Your socks are too short." It's funny that they're each so different.
Yeah, they are
Yeah.
very much.
So the party scene, you would say,
Party scene.
is the good part. Matt, what are some bad things?
Oh, I
about
thought I was
cycling?
going to get the ugly.
Well,
The bad parts are when you don't have the bike handling skills and the course itself just is like, oh yeah, by the way, this is a mountain bike race now, and you just feel like you're going to crash the whole time. That's the bad part.
done exactly one race, right? You did a
I did
bunch
all
of cyclocross.
of one race.
Yep, you
I
just
did all of one race.
Yeah, you did the
So I have
practices.
a lot of experience in cyclocross.
Lance, do you think, and if my memory serves me correct, it was the David Douglas race
Yes.
that you did, and this was probably back in 2017 or 16,
Yeah,
somewhere in there?
Well, probably 2017, 2018, somewhere in there.
Somewhere in
That's a
there.
good guess.
Would you say that that's a good example of like a good cross race that Matt did?
no.
No, I would venture to agree with you on that.
There's definitely funner courses and funner races.
Yeah.
that make
It's
it more
probably a course that
exciting.
you liked because there was some technical bits to it.
Yeah, the more technical it is, the more I enjoy it
yeah.
because the better I do.
And honestly, if I was on a mountain bike, I would have been fine.
Yeah.
I would have been fine with that course.
Now,
I
I've
didn't own
only
a mountain bike.
done 4 races myself, and that was one of the ones that I did, and that was my least favorite of all of them, and that was my very first one. So I didn't have anything to compare it to when I did it, but again, I was just racing in a Cat 5 and probably shouldn't have been there. As a matter of fact, I know I shouldn't have been. I was told I shouldn't be in there, but anyhow, it was good. But I'm like, oh, this, I could see how people new to the sport do this for the first time and don't really care for that ravine that you had to go through, and some of the stuff was a little
There's this like section where you go downhill and then you have this hard right.
Yeah.
And I never crashed that section, but I was like, this sucks. Like I just don't want to crash.
It's why pre-riding is so important.
I specifically remember doing this race because we were out there and they let us go after, I think it was the women's single speeds were out there. And I remember coming into that, and there was 2 women that were fully yard sailed, like taking up the whole thing. I'm like, oh crap! And I kind of weasel through them. I'm like,
Yes.
there's a bunch of people coming. You might want to get up. I'm
I
like,
remember thinking that I was gonna be so good at this that I was like, I'll start in the back and I'll work my way through the field. That's literally the thought in my mind when I started the race.
The front 10 would have just ridden away. You'd never seen him again.
I mean,
because it bottlenecks behind him.
it was so bad. Like it was just like no neurons were firing upstairs.
Right.
I didn't know what I was talking about or thinking about up there, but like, yeah, it was just a mess.
Ian, how many races have you done?
I did 5 or 6 last season, I think, and then probably a total of 5 or 6 before that. So
Gotcha.
Not a whole lot.
You got any uglies for us?
Yeah. Well, I think the whole
Don't
thing's
crash in
kind
the
of
parking
ugly,
lot.
right? I mean, the potential for getting really wet and muddy is super high. So you just can't wear your white aero socks and your white road shoes. So you're left with a bunch of guys in t-shirts and visors on their helmets and covered in mud and stuff. And it's just not cool like road racing.
Will you be racing this year?
So I usually choose the not too muddy early season stuff.
Sure.
Last season I was out at Madras. I went and did the PIR, the
Trophy Cup?
Trophy Cup. I like all of that stuff, but I'm going to be away for a couple of weeks now. So
Okay.
hopefully I can get out to Corncross in Boring. That's on the 15th, I believe. That's just around the corner from where I live.
that's
So
right next
that'd
to
be
his
nice.
house.
As long as it's not raining and muddy, I'll do that. So yeah,
That
hopefully
course-
I want to get out.
If that course is wet,
I've heard.
it is
Yeah.
a slog.
I know.
But if it's dry, it's fantastic.
Well, if it's wet, I'm not going to be there.
All right. So as we're going, feel free to throw out some top 10 cyclocross tips that fall under the categories of good, bad, and ugly, or whatever you want. So if you have something, toss it out right now. Let's run back around the table, though. Is there anything else that you guys would like to share about cyclocross? Any stories or any like fails or anything that you did that makes you love it or hate it?
Hundreds of fails.
Top suggestion or something that I've found fun is cyclocross practices. If you can find a group to do practices with, if you're part of the dial team, you're taken care of. But like for other people that aren't necessarily on our team, practices are so much fun. I really enjoy that aspect of cyclocross. I used to do them once a week when I had a cyclocross bike, and it was just like a lunch. You could go out there, you could do an hour, and you would get a very nice structured workout that was really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And you could work on skills too, which was fun.
Okay, I'm going to piggyback on what you just said right there and just throw this out there. We've actually run 2 cyclocross practices over the last 2 weeks. We got the approval through a few things, making sure that we have all the insurances, whatnot, to do it at a new location, which is less than a half mile from the lab.
Yeah.
So we're at the VIC, which is the Vancouver Innovation Center, which is the old Hewlett Packard Center, and it's on 75 acres. And there's a lot of varying things out there, and they've been running the practices. However, and this, I'm going to take the blame for this because I'm usually the one that does this kind of stuff. They haven't been posting them on Strava. They've just been putting them out on our team Slack account for people. So that will be going out on Strava for this coming week if anybody's interested. And we're having those on Wednesdays.
Wednesdays at
6 o'clock. Yep. And you just got to come out and show up. We'll have all kinds of stuff set up and things to practice and drills and skills and the fun stuff in between. So come on out. And if you're not on our Strava cycle, whatever club thing for dialed cycling, you can join that to get the invitation.
Cyclocross does have several specific skills that you have to practice. Or you don't have to practice.
It's good to practice.
It's good to practice these skills. Dismounting and remounting,
I find
running over barriers.
Yeah. I find it interesting because like, coming from triathlon, you dismount and mount or whatever,
Yes.
but it is a different skill a little
You
bit.
have to take your feet out of the shoes to dismount.
True. But there's also little things like in cyclocross, the hop is ugly. You want to like basically like almost glide onto the seat a little bit, like you roll your leg onto it. Whereas triathlon, I was never really taught that, right? Like not that I was taught anything, but you just kind of jump on and you go. Whereas cyclocross, you're on and off so much that smoothing that out is actually pretty nice.
Much better.
Yeah,
I think it's at least 60% of the chance of success is your skills, right? It has to be in
Yes,
cyclocross.
for sure.
And I found that last season because my skills leave a lot to be desired.
You have all the
and
power.
I was being beaten by guys in my class that I would run rings around. I mean, trying not to sound too non-modest, but
Yes.
it's
You're right.
definitely not down. It's not an FTP kind of thing that wins the races.
No,
So
it's
if
not.
you don't practice those skills, you're
You're screwed. I'm going to throw a tip out there. You really need to do your homework on your tire selection and your air pressure to run said tires and know the course that you're going to. How much of a difference has that made for you, Lance?
No surprise, but I almost always go to the course the day before, and if they have it set up, I will do as many laps as they will allow me to do, because the more familiar I am with the course, the better. Now, not everybody can do that just because of timing and family and
So,
how far away it is.
Tires are important for a tip. Pre-riding is another tip.
Yep.
And I know that cyclocross riders hate to talk about tire pressure.
No, it's the whole freaking thing.
Oh, that's all you talk about.
It's all we talk about.
It's all you
is
talk about.
tire
Oh,
pressure.
okay.
What tires you running and what pressure you're
Yeah.
running.
And then if you want to have friends in cyclocross, there you go.
Yeah.
There's your ticket.
There's a UCI rule that your tires are supposed to be 33 millimeters or less, but in these local races,
No one cares.
Nobody cares. Bring your mountain bike, ride your 2.4s. It's just come and race.
I got to get my mountain bike fixed up and ready for cyclocross
There you
season.
go.
Yeah.
I got to get
You
ready.
can bunny hop the barriers on that mountain bike.
Do you,
Yes, you could.
run an exclusive tire all season, or are you switching things up based on the
You know-
I don't know, the course and the conditions and whatnot?
Believe it or not, I'm fairly lazy, and I don't like changing the tires.
Yeah.
And on my cyclocross bike, I have a race bike and I have a secondary pit bike. And the tires are hard to change, and so I put a pair of tires on and I wear them until they run out, which is not ideal because I put a mud tire on. So because when it's muddy, you need a mud tire, but you can ride the mud tire on the flatter courses. But I really should have.
It's almost like if you could ideally change halfway through the season, it would be like that.
Yes,
For the
or you
Pacific
have
Northwest.
2 sets of wheels, but again, it's just spendy. It's
Yep.
just spendy.
So you're running a tubeless tire with
I run
fish core inserts.
Yes.
And your tire pressure is probably lower than the average bear. What pressure are you running?
I'm like 175 pounds, and I'll run my pressure. If it's muddy, I'll run it in the teens.
Wow.
Yeah, like 18 or
With
19
cush core.
With cush core. If it's not muddy, I can run a few more pounds of pressure because it'll slow you down on the real flatter stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you have a tire that's your favorite, like your go-to?
I run the Donnelly PDX tires
Okay.
almost exclusively. It is not really good for dry courses, but I just ride it anyway.
They're not as fast, but they still
Yeah.
hook up really nice.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when I've gone out to either race or watch the races, I find that there's a lot of like dusty or sandy spots where that probably hooks up a little bit better than some of the other tires with a smoother tread.
Yeah.
A little grippier.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. What else you guys got about cyclocross? Any other
Tips.
tips that you can throw out there for the
A lot of people are wondering from me, like, what does Matt think about tips
Yeah, 100%.
about cyclocross? Don't do it.
Don't do it.
No. How about drink beers afterwards, before or afterwards, but preferably afterwards. I mean, I think the party atmosphere, like Lance talked about, is definitely worth reinforcing. Like, it's cool. It's a cool atmosphere.
There's
the
always
best part.
there's always team tents, and the team tent, you can put the team tents right on the course, so you can watch all your friends go by and mock them and cheer the kids on, and so it makes it very fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the social aspect of it is huge. I mean, it's really the heart of competitive cycling here in the Pacific Northwest, particularly in the Portland area. I mean, it's kind of famed for its
Yeah.
cyclocross, and so everybody who races bikes is out there, and including a large presence, unlike on the road scene, from our very own dialed teammates, right? So
We might
it's
have
great.
30
Yeah.
dialed
So
members.
a
racing.
tip could be consider joining a team.
Yep.
I mean,
It's-
because it's
it's
really
funner.
it's funnerer.
It's funnerer. It's more
More-
funner.
It's more funnerer. So I definitely think that's worth considering as well. And then that again parlays into, like, you might have people to practice with, you might have fun people to check out when you're out there, people to have beers with afterwards.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's a good one.
What are your best heckles? You guys have any good heckles out there?
You're supposed to be racing. I mean, classic, right?
No,
There's a
you're
bike
supposed-
race going on. Get off the course. There's a bike race going on.
Right.
There's lots of stuff like that.
The bikes are for riding, not for running with, because you end up
Yeah,
running a
yeah.
lot with your bikes when it's
It's a run up, not a walk up.
It's yeah.
The hand ups are over if you need an excuse to cop out.
Somebody yelled at me last year. Somebody yelled, "They're minerals. They're not rocks." That was directed at me personally.
Oh, that's funny.
Do you guys heckle people? Do you think that that's a good thing for the sport?
Yes, for adults.
For adults.
Yeah.
I do heckle almost all adults. I'll try to say something funny and in jest, and I hope that they get it in that spirit.
Right.
But the kids, no. They need just encouragement.
Yep.
Just encouragement for the kids.
Kids are off limits.
You kind of have to know your audience, right?
Yes.
And yeah. And even with some of the male adults, they might take things the wrong way.
Yes.
And it's just like if Lance comes by, all bets are off.
Yes.
I mean, everything you can think of.
Oh, I have been reamed.
But the thing
on
that's
course.
great about that
I
is
just
like
laugh.
the audience knows
It's okay.
It's fair game.
Yeah, it's fair game.
Yeah. Whereas if you don't know the person, I wouldn't really heckle them unless I felt like it, and then maybe I might, but probably not, because you are representing Dialed and everything. You have these people that are like, the Dialed team's a bunch of a-holes.
Yeah, and so they can yell at me that in
Yeah.
the cyclocross race, and I will laugh at them as they yell at me.
Well,
most of the time, and then I go cry myself to sleep.
Yeah.
What else, boys? Get yourself a good heckle.
Practice your starts. Starts are important. Here's a good tip. Get to the start line early.
Yeah.
Because
don't start in the back and
Don't
think you're
start
going
in
right through the
back.
field.
No, you're not.
It might not happen.
If you don't get a call-ups are important in cyclocross, and not everybody gets call-ups. Maybe 10 people might get call-ups, and so getting to the start area early enough so that you can increase your chances in the start position.
You know what's
is
ironic?
helpful.
I think if I did another cyclocross race, which maybe I'll do on a mountain bike or whatever, I still don't think I would start in the front. I would just go to the back again.
Yeah.
I would just be like, don't
Just
care.
mistake. Yes, right.
I probably cared more that first race about doing well, and now I would care less. I'd be like, I'm here for the heckling, the beer, and
That's right.
the mountain biking course.
So for
But again, comparing it to these recent criteriums we've been doing on the road, where the last 2 or 3 laps are the most important, the only really important part of the race, it's the complete opposite in a
It is.
cyclocross
Actually,
race. If you miss out on the start and you lollygagging at the back,
I actually think that's
your
a really
race
good.
is done, right?
I think that's a
So-
good tip. Actually, is hit that first lap hard,
Yeah, hit
Right.
it hard and then try to recover.
Yeah.
because your first lap is what it's depending on the distance and all that stuff. It's probably what, like 10% faster.
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
maybe a little less than that.
Yeah, but I'm not very good at gauging my effort. I go way too hard at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then I get pulled back. It happens in every race. It's
your
kinda
race
fun.
is on average of what, 45 minutes ish,
Yeah,
give
40,
or take?
yeah.
40, 45 minutes. Do you enjoy getting to this point in the year and then sitting on the rivet for 40 minutes and just turning yourself inside out, and like your heart rate's through the roof, you're seeing cross-eyed, your body's like already kind of broken down from all of the mountain racing, bike racing, the gravel, the road, all of the training stuff, and your sweet spots and your KOM chasing? I mean, do you get to this point in time of year and you're like, what am I doing with my life?
No, because it's
So fun.
It's fun, and I have no pressure for this. I've already accomplished my goals for the year.
Yeah.
And so there's no pressure in these races. I'm still going to try to win, and I have very little chance at winning any of these cyclocross races in the field that I race with. I mean, even making the podium is a stretch at every race. And so I'm just going to bury myself as much as I can, but what I found, as much as the race hurts, man, an hour later, you feel totally normal.
Yeah.
You're fine. You're totally recovered. You're ready to go.
Well, when you come to the beginning of cross season with so many, 10, 20, 30 races, hard
Yes.
races in your legs, you're at a big advantage compared with a lot of people who show up for this cross season that this is the first races of the year
Yeah.
they've been doing.
Yeah.
So maybe they've put some miles in, but you should be stronger, way stronger with all those racing miles.
Yeah. And so this year's been a little bit different too, because usually short track is done at the end of July, and there's a full whole month just to kind of unwind and get that out of your legs, get that out of your system, kind of recover, and then build back up and get ready for the first race of the season, which is typically here in the Pacific Northwest on Labor Day weekend, right?
Yep.
So if given what it is, do you prefer the way that it is now with the short track going all the way almost to the start of cross season? Like you just missed it, what, by 2 weeks or something like that?
2 weeks. I do prefer it. I think it'll be 3 weeks from the end of short track until the first cross race. And I kind of prefer that because short track races are...
It retunes your motor?
Yeah. You're going full gas for 30 or 40 minutes.
So do you prefer having that transition from road gravelly stuff and mountain bike stuff that's longer into short track and then having to kind of retune for short track like during the short track season and then rolling that into cyclocross? Or do you prefer to have the short track earlier in the year?
No, I prefer to have it later.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I like
that works out well for you?
But I'm an idiot with my schedule anyway. I mean, I'll do all the races, all the long stuff and the short stuff.
Sure.
And yeah, so it's always too much.
All right. How about you, Ian? Because I mean, you're our resident roadie. You're the captain of our road team. Do you find this to be something that's difficult for you after all of like the road racing? Well, granted, you're doing the crits, and the crits are kind of more of a summer thing. But is that tough for you to transition into like a cyclocross race that's like shorter and just kind of having to go full bore for 40 minutes?
I think it fits in well with like criterium racing because it's the same kind of intensity.
Okay.
What lets me down is I lose a lot of energy. I'm not efficient cyclocross racer.
Sure.
So I put a lot of work into it. But it's good. I like that it extends the season out. So if you love racing, you love the competition, it's great that you've got another 2 months because otherwise you're looking at end of August through mid-March, April,
before
like 5, 6, 7 months of not racing.
Sure.
So you put cyclocross on there and it fulfills a need. So
okay. So as our resident coach, all this just being said about getting ready for seasons and whatnot, let's say that somebody's just been riding but not like training. They're not doing the structured stuff. Is it too late for them to get ready for the cyclocross season? Well, obviously not this weekend, but let's be honest, there's the Harvest Cross, which is kind of like your setup stuff to kind of get you in the groove. And it's serious racing. It's good racing.
Yep.
And they have great courses and it's well run. Zone 5 does a fantastic job. But the big, 1,000-pound gorilla is going to be the Cross Crusade.
Yep.
Is it good for somebody who is interested in getting into cyclocross to start now with a coaching program, go through the Harvest Crossing and do some coaching and then get prepped and ready to go for maybe the Cross Crusade that's going to start in a few, 4, 5, 6 weeks?
yeah, it's not ideal, right? I mean, and it depends who we're talking about. If you've got a good aerobic base, right? If you've been putting some miles in, it's much easier to build on top of that and those short bursts of sort of VO2 max power, threshold power. That's you can realize gains in those areas relatively quickly. There's fitness that comes and disappears quickly as well. But that's making the assumption that you have a good aerobic base to work with on. If you came to me and said, I haven't ridden in 2 years, but I want to do this race in 6 weeks' time, I don't know if I want to take you on. I mean, it's some training is better than no training, but 6 weeks is not it's actually less than 6 weeks.
Yeah.
4 to 5 weeks is not. You're not going to make a massive dent.
Yeah. But, I mean, it could get them prepped to maybe not be their absolute best.
Yeah.
But you can at least get them on the path to enjoy it just a little bit more. So they're not going out there and completely dying and blowing up after the first 2 laps. Maybe they can finish the race, but they're just not going to finish the race as quickly as they maybe have hoped
and
to do.
Even if you haven't got ambitions to get on the podium or place well, it's better to have that core fitness to just enjoy the event, right? So you're not suffering the whole time.
So maybe our last tip is get a coach, try training for cyclocross. Try
It helps.
try training, building that aerobic fitness in the summer. Well, I think a lot of people
you
do
think
that.
of the way the cyclocross race unfolds, right from the start. You go off at you're putting down the power immediately. So you get this huge spike in lactate and all those other things that are right there in your blood from 30 seconds into the race. Now, if you're not in reasonable shape, you're going to have a lot of trouble clearing that out and recovering from that. And if you've been doing some training, some sort of threshold training, over-unders, that kind of thing, you've worked on clearing those lactate and those metabolites out of your blood, and that's, you become more efficient in that area. So,
Gotcha. Right now, in this day and age, it seems like many of the bike manufacturers have stopped making cross bikes, and they've basically put all of those resources and everything into the gravel scene, and rightfully so, because it's probably the biggest of all of them, probably right up there with mountain biking in terms of like where the bike manufacturers are making their money. So it makes it pretty difficult to find yourself a good cross bike that's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. I know that like Cervelo's making one because that's what Wout van Aert rides, and you go and you look at that bike and that's a fantastic bike, and you look at the price tag, you're like, I'm not going to spend $8 or $9 on a cyclocross bike that I'm going to ride for a few weeks during the course of the year and then not touch it for the rest of the year. So that leaves a lot of people taking their gravel bike out to race cyclocross. Is that something that you would recommend for people? Yes, go out there just to do it, to have fun, but is that going to be a deterrent from them being able to win a race or be competitive?
You can do just fine on a gravel bike, but I'm going to corner way faster than you on a cyclocross bike than I am on a gravel bike, just because of the slack setup.
And some of those turns in those races are quite sharp. If you're not familiar with cyclocross races, it's different than we would do in like a cross country race where it's like, well, let's do nice gradual turns. Like, no, part of the game is like, let's do some sharp turns, let's do some U-turns that are sharp, and like make the course that way to make it interesting. So it's very different than like anything gravel oriented or even like running cross country or whatever. So,
and you can still do it on a gravel bike for sure.
Yeah, I did all my races on a gravel bike
Did you really?
last season, and I really don't feel like that was the limiting factor. That wasn't. I can't say, well, I would have won that race, but I was on a gravel bike. No.
Well, if you think about it, if there's, say, 8 turns and you lose a second on each one of those turns, that's 8 seconds. And then you multiply that times 8 laps. And then that kind of adds up. So in a...
Damn it. Maybe it was a gravel. Maybe it was my bike.
However, in the gravel bike's defense, there's things that the gravel bike's going to do better than the cyclocross bike. It's gonna
comfort.
It's gonna be you're probably gonna find it a little bit more comfortable there. But it's one of those things like on the fast straightaways. I mean, you can still get after it on a gravel bike, but a cross bike. But or if it's like a long steep descent or something like that, like the gravel bike's probably gonna be a little bit more stable.
Yes, it will.
It technically could be a little bit faster.
Yeah.
So I don't know. There's
Maybe
some
it's
pros
a
and cons
wash.
there, but I think on the whole, the cyclocross bike is obviously gonna be faster. Otherwise, the pros be riding them. So
yeah, but. Seriously, just race your gravel bike if that's what you got.
The whole thing with tires is way more important than head tube angle. So if you're riding strictly per the rules on 33 is the
33 is the UCI tire width.
If you have a gravel bike but you've put 33 millimeter tires on it, it doesn't feel like a gravel bike anymore.
No, that's true.
Do you think that Ober should change the rules and adhere to what the UCI and the USAC rules are in terms of like a 33?
No, I don't think so either. Because think about it, there's quite a few people that like bring mountain bikes and stuff. And
It'll keep people out.
yeah, that's the last thing Ober should ever do is keep people from doing.
But there
those events.
are occasionally muddy courses where a mountain bike,
I know, right?
A hardtail mountain bike is absolutely faster if they're really muddy. And then it's those of us who are
I'm
applying the rules.
I'm going by the rules, and this person's got an advantage.
Yeah, but really, it's freaking local racing. Who cares? You go to a UCI race, or you're trying to get UCI points, then, or you're trying to get points to go to nationals. They're going to measure your tire, and you can't ride those bikes anyway.
So you roll up to a start. There's usually 40, maybe 50 people in your field?
Yeah.
Sometimes even more.
Sometimes 80.
What percentage of the people are riding cross versus gravel bikes these days? Is it starting to get pretty split, or is it still way more trending towards the cross side?
I have no idea.
I'd be really curious to see that.
I would bet that it's trending more split.
Yeah.
There's like more gravel bikes showing up because who wants to have a gravel bike and a cyclocross bike?
Yeah.
Just idiots like me.
Who are these people?
And again, I mean, if you're going to go out and spend a boatload of money on a cyclocross bike that's only going to get ridden, a few weekends out of the year, and by a few it could be, 1 or 2. We're up to how many races are there? Like 12 now?
There's
and that's not including Trophy Club.
7. There's 14 weekend races, and there's another 25 weekday races you could do.
Yeah, some maybe. I mean, there is plenty of it to go out there and race, but
Lance will do all of them, at least once, maybe twice per race.
It is fun.
So the moral of the story is show up on whatever bike
Show
you
up.
want. Cyclocross bike's probably going to be the most adept to doing the best, but a gravel bike is probably a close second runner-up, and a lot of people have gravel bikes, so consider going and doing it.
Jake, would you use your new gravel bike? The I don't know what it's called. Envy one.
The Envy, I still haven't built that bike up, but given that I don't have a cyclocross bike, I would take that over the BMC Oars that I have because it's a little bit more of aggressive geometry. And I think it's going to be a little bit lighter too once it's all built up.
I might have my Mog in the pit at a few races.
Will you change the tires out on it?
Yeah.
Okay. What will you run?
I'll have bigger tires than 33 on that.
35s maybe?
Tell
Yeah.
no one.
Or 38s or something.
Oh, and that's
Or
another thing.
42s.
Do you think that people need to have a bike in the pit?
Well, not necessarily.
No,
No,
you don't
No, you
have
don't.
to, but it's
Don't let
a good
that hold you
idea.
back.
The reason for the pit bike is I'm doing a whole series of races and I can't get a 0 at one of these races. And so if I have a mechanical, I want to be able to finish that race. If I have a mechanical, I'm swapping bikes and I'm losing 10 places anyway.
Or if you have mud build up and you have your teammates there to help you.
Those are
there's
the best.
There's so many nice
Yeah.
things about being part of a team.
Yep. If you have a teammate cleaning bikes and swapping bikes for you and
That's
it's really muddy, it's
handy.
It's handy. It's definitely faster.
All right. Well, that was kind of a fun little impromptu
cyclocross talk.
Matt, will you honestly ever do a cyclocross race again, you think?
Maybe. I mean, like I said, if I do it, like I get my mountain bike fixed up and it needs a little bit of work, needs a little bit of love, I would totally go out to an event and ride in the back of the pack and just have fun with it. And I would not be at all scared. So the part that I didn't like was that, like, I'm riding down these things. I'm like, I'm about to crash. And I would not feel like that. I would never feel like that with a mountain bike. I would just be like, no problem. This is fine. Like, no matter what it throws at you. Like, in fact, a harder course I might enjoy more because I wouldn't be scared of crashing or whatever. So
Was that the thing that you hated the most? Is the fact that you were almost going to crash
I felt
all
like
the
I was
time?
always going to, like, very close to crashing the whole time. And then it was just not fun.
And I
I
just-
also think I was trying to be a little bit more competitive, and I don't think I would at this point in my life.
That race that you did, there was twice that you had to ride into this canyon. So you ride into the canyon, then you ride out of it on the backside, and then you had to ride back into it, and then out of it on the front side
for each lap.
For each lap, and you did 7-8 laps or something like that.
Once I got lapped about 4 or 5 times, they were just like dialed off the course. Yeah. No. I don't remember how many laps it was.
I hate the
5
things they
laps.
throw out there on these courses that encourage you to crash as well. Like sand. Who the hell rides through sand? Right? You're gonna crash at some point. You know, it's unpredictable.
Next week's race has a big
I-
chunk
yeah,
of
right.
sand in it.
That's where I kept losing time.
So, Lance, do you think that if Matt had skipped David Douglas and started his cyclocross career out at Hetmere, which is a little bit more of like we'll say a roadies course, it's a lot flatter. I mean, you
It
do
is a
have to
lot
ride on the
flatter.
beach, and that's actually kind of fun to watch because of the people that like to fly over the handlebars and that and get all the scorpion pictures out there. But do you think that Matt would have liked cyclocross?
And would I be professional by now?
Yes and yes.
Okay, thank you.
It's like we-
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Matt,
I think you would have liked it more because there's more power sections.
The other part is I had a really crappy cyclocross bike that was like that I got for dirt cheap, and it was steel. Which there's no. I have the steel. The fact that it was steel was the best part about this bike, but it didn't brake well. The cantilever brakes were really crappy, and that made me feel less safe as well. And so I don't know that there's a course that I would have loved on that bike. I really probably should have bought a used bike that someone, at the time, that was a while ago, right?
Yeah.
Like things changed, technology changed, but like a bike with disc brakes which would, if I could get a used one of those at the time, those probably didn't exist, but now it would be easy to pick something like that up. Anyway, that type of bike I think I would feel more comfortable on. And again, bigger tires, less tire pressure, all the things that can make handling difficult trails a little bit easier would be the way to go.
well, David Douglas is no longer on the schedule.
Nope.
It's gone.
Bad.
They've punted it, but the Hetmere is still on there, and I really do think that you would like that course. The Washougal races are a lot of fun.
Yeah,
What are some of your favorite
Washougal
courses?
races I think will be fun.
Washougal is a great race. Heiser Farms is a great race. The Cross Crusade races, they're a little bigger. There's generally more people come.
Yeah.
It's more of an event. But what Scott Schultz puts on with the Harvest Cross Series are great as well. There's 4 races at PIR or around PIR with the Cross Crusade this year. And then there's a few venues that are brand new that I've never done. So
If you had to pick one series, which one would it be?
I do the Harvest Cross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Because there's fewer people and I'm more competitive.
Yeah.
I think fewer people is good.
Some of those
It can be more
fast guys
fun.
don't
Yeah.
show up.
What about
Sometimes those Cross Crusade races are ridiculous. They like need to set a field limit size, and they seem not to. Like I remember the race out they used to do at Alpenrose, and after about a lap, the start of the field had literally caught the back of the field. Yeah. There was nowhere to go.
I did a Cat 3 race there with 150
Yeah.
people in the field.
Yeah, I remember hearing stories about how they would set this up, and it was all about the call up. You had to get towards the front, otherwise you have no chance. But it was so bad, and there were so many people there, and they knew that the people in the back had no chance in this certain number field, that they would go and hand them a special ticket to get a beer or a 6-pack or something along those lines from the sponsors. You had like a beer number, so you knew that you're just going to go out there to have fun. You're not going to be competitive. You try and pick up as many people as you can, but the consolation was at least I got a beer out of that.
Yeah.
What the race I did, this was years ago out at Alpenrose. There was the people that got the call up, and then there was a whole first wave of starters, and then there was a pause, and then a second wave, all in the same race. So if you were in the second wave of starters, you had no chance.
You're having fun.
No chance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that fun to go to a race knowing that you have absolutely no chance to be competitive?
Yes.
It can be. Yeah.
I think so.
So it's what you make of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it worth paying that money though? I mean,
Well, we did
Those
the
races
Ben
are-
criterium. That was pretty much the same.
We sat at the
No
back.
chance.
We had no chance at that.
awesome. All right. Well, I think me personally, if I had to pick a series, I would definitely pick the Harvest Cross. And you want to know why? All of the races are generally dry.
Yeah.
I think for me, that's the one thing. And I know that that's the essence of cross is that it's, a big, sloppy, muddy mess and you got to learn how to ride through all that stuff. Well, first and foremost, I can't do that anymore because I can't afford to fall because I'm, again, built of glass. So I don't want to get hurt. But on the other side, it's like, I don't know if I quite enjoy that. It destroys my bike. You're wet, you're cold, you're muddy. And there's just all of that stuff. I'm like, I don't know.
I love the mud racing. I hate the cleanup.
Yeah.
Plus, we like Scott. We need to support Scott. Racing.
Yeah. Well, good times. All right. Anything else you guys want to throw out there before we jump into one last thing? All right. Let's do one last thing. Matt LeGrand, you've been a busy bee. You've got a lot of stuff going on in the YouTubes. I'm sure you're going to talk a little
YouTubes,
bit. Yeah.
Yes, I'm still posting to YouTube sporadically. The video. Okay, so I posted a video about an Apple Watch. That one did really well. I was very surprised that did well because it's about an app on the Apple Watch, which I usually those kind of things don't usually do well. And then I posted.
Can you define what well is? I mean, in terms of numbers of views.
I that's a great question. I think it's gotten 40,000 views.
That's awesome.
Something like that. For a video that I didn't expect to do that great. And then the very next video is probably got the same amount in less time. It's the Garmin Fenix 8 announcement, which was really cool.
That just dropped 2 days ago, I think it was.
Yes.
Tuesday.
Yeah. And so that video's been well received as well. So it's just cool. It's cool to have some videos that are doing well on the channel because you get more comments and you get to talk to people and it's much more fun. And you work hard. I mean, you know how it is. We work so hard on these videos, and sometimes you work and you're like, you put this stupid amount of work that makes no sense.
It takes a ton of work. That's why I only put out one a year because it takes me a full year to make a video.
But then what kills you is you put all this time into it, and then you're like, oh, and no one watched it, and you're like, okay, that's fine. But am I going to? It's not that you're putting out these videos because you want to get 1 million views. It's that there is some reward to the hard work that people are seeing it, and so that's okay. And so it's been good. I'm working on a video now that's the Garmin Enduro 3, which is some people on the podcast might actually be interested in this watch just because if you do need to use it for a bikepacking trip or overnight hiking or all this kind of stuff, this thing is designed to go forever. So, you can think of like 90 hours of GPS time frame. Wow. So it's a big day of if that was your activity, if you press start and then finished in 90 hours, that's a crazy activity. So it's a really nice watch in that regard. and be a great backup to, something like a Garmin Edge device or something like that.
Sure.
For biking. But a lot of times it is marketed towards ultra runners. So people that are doing 100-mile runs or 200-mile runs.
Cool.
I like it because I go on a trip. Actually, Lance would like this. Like, you go on a trip, you don't bring a charger. It's just like, it's just going to be fine.
It'll last.
It's just going to be like, oh, is this trip more than a month? No? Okay, then this watch will be fine. So there's awesome value for me having this watch.
Gotcha.
I like it quite a bit.
Hey, quick question for
Sure.
you. In your video that you put out, the Phoenix one, and go watch that. It's a great video. Matt did a fantastic job on that. I always like looking at the little things, and I don't know if you put these in as overlays or if you programmed that way, but just the names that were on the watch when you're like showing messages and were those overlays, or did you actually program those into the watch?
You'll have to be more give more detail. Like the
names of the people. I think you put like Matt Legrand, and like if you had your wife in there, and there was something else like, what was it? Like
those are just like really real.
Those are connected. Those are in your. Those
Yeah.
weren't
So like one of them was Rico Suave.
Rico Suave, that's what it was.
Really in there.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like people that I have for like Garmin Messenger or something like that, which is like this app, and yeah, so it's got my wife in there because like we're testing this stuff, and then I make up a test account, and of course my makeup test account name is Rico Suave, and then he's also in the other parts of the video too because the quote was from Rico Suave. There's this quote, and it was like, and this is interesting because people were so confused about this watch. People would say, I really like the display on the Garmin Epix, but I wish that display was on the Garmin Phoenix, which if you know these watches really well, you know that the Epix really is a Phoenix with an AMOLED display. That's all it is.
Yeah.
So people are like, we want this thing that you exactly already have. And we're like, so the naming convention confused the hell out of people.
Yeah.
And so the first block of my video is like kind of explaining the missing pieces there and why Garmin is no longer going to have the Epix anymore. They're only going to have the Phoenix going forward.
Yeah.
And they'll just have different varieties of the Phoenix. So yes, if you care about these sorts of things, now you know.
Yeah.
Now you know.
Actually, I made an appearance in this video too. That was kind of cool.
Yeah,
there's some riding alongside of you there.
Yes. There's some clips that I use that I really like, and that was a day where it's like when I take the time to actually go film something, it's like that stuff tends to turn out nice, and a lot of times I can reuse that. So we did that was well over a year ago.
Doing the Brighton rear view radar thing.
I don't remember what it was.
That's what it was. Yeah, we met out there in. Wherever that's at.
The gravel. There's like a little country road that I like,
Yep.
and we go out there. And it's nice, and then and set up some shots. And when you take the time to like set up shops, when you take the time to set up shots, yes, you're not really getting a lot of biking in, but the video turns out they're very pretty shots and things like that. And so I need to do that again because I got bike computers and stuff to do, and I just like going out there and getting some nice pretty stuff.
Cool.
So yep.
Awesome. Ian, you got one last thing for us?
I'm looking forward to vacation. So this next weekend, I'm going to be in Italy in the Dolomites.
Wow.
And I'm doing this thing called a Zella Ronde Bike Day, which is where they close all of those roads there to car traffic and just let a whole bunch of cyclists, like 10,000 cyclists, onto the roads. We do the Sella Pass, we do the Gardena, the Pordoi, the Campolonga. Anyway, it's
retirement is looking good on you.
And miss cyclocross?
Yes. But it's so much fun. I did it a couple of years ago, and particularly on the descents, you're coming down these alpine passes as fast as you can go, and you're clipping the
And you're like, I got the whole
apexes
road.
of the corner because you know there's no traffic coming up the other way. So much fun. It's great. Great atmosphere. Hopefully the weather's good. The day after that, we're going to go over to a little further east, and we're going to do ride the Stelvio Pass.
Nice.
And should be a good time. Looking forward to it.
Jij bent een klootzak.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Lance Hepler.
Times.
The Vuelta does end with an individual time trial.
Oh.
One last thing.
One last thing. The last stage in Madrid is a 25K individual time trial.
Okay.
That's it.
Cool. My one last thing is we've talked about this a while back when it actually happened, but there was our local cyclist friend of the community, Ken O'Day, who was hit by a car on the 4th of July, and it was terrible. I mean, he really went through the ringer, and we're thankful that he's alive. I mean, so many broken bones and just I don't want to get into all the grim details, but I just wanted to give a quick update on him. And basically, long story short, he was able to come by the lab yesterday, escorted by his brother, his wife, and his mom. He's still in a wheelchair. He's casted up, and he's having a really hard time walking. He broke both of his femurs, and one of them was a compound fracture, and it was like muscle in his quad that was dead. Just all kinds of stuff. It's just bad. So he came by though, and was really, because he just wanted to come by and say thank you because of the GoFundMe that everybody's been contributing to and continues to contribute to this day. Wow. And I can't tell you how thankful he was, his family was, his wife was for that. And the way that it works is like whatever money is available at that given time, they'll transfer it over. And because we're able to use our nonprofit, they took a very, very minimal fee, and it just comes through. So we've actually had 2 waves of payments come through, and there's a third that's going to be coming. And if people keep contributing, that'll really be helpful as well. But we were able to present him with a check for over $25,000, and there's still another couple $1,000s that are going to be coming through, which is really cool. And I just wanted to say a heartfelt thank you to everybody who has contributed, because that is going to be immensely helpful to them. They are going to be able to do things around the house to help him, because I mean, they've got to now make their house kind of ADA compliant for the foreseeable future. He's got a lot of therapies that he needs to get done related to like his rehab, but there's some other things that happen where he's got to go to occupational therapy because, long story short, he had a bone marrow that got into his bloodstream that ended up crossing the blood-brain barrier and caused things to happen that really kind of put a big giant
made it harder, made it worse.
I don't want to get into all the details. I don't want to share too many things that aren't that I'm not supposed to. But anyway, long story short, that's going to be super helpful to help cover a lot of those costs, because he does have disability insurance, but that will run out at some point in time. And he's the sole provider for his family. And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that's been able to help out, which has been super cool. So it was good to see him. Yeah, it's kind of fun because his brother has been in town now for 3, 4, 5 weeks or something like that. I'm not quite sure how that works out for him and how long he's going to be able to stay, but he's been coming to all of our rides, and so he's getting to know a lot of people in the community, which is kind of cool. So, just thank you. And if you want to go help out with that, you can go to Facebook and look at like any of our channels, the Dialed Cycling or the Dialed Podcast, and you can see the post there and contribute to the GoFundMe. Whether it's $5 or $500, doesn't matter. It all helps. So there's a lot of people that have chipped in to make it that big of a sum of money. Pretty cool stuff. All right.
Thank you.
Eckerheads. I was going to do it, but I'm like, that just means I got to edit stuff out later. I don't want to do that. I don't have time for that anymore. We do appreciate everybody listening. We will be back next week, I promise, with another one of these. And until then, bye for now.
See, I got this friend named Joey Jojo Jr. Shabadoo.
That's the worst name I ever heard.
Hey! Joey Jojo!